Okay guys, so good afternoon. Today we will be discussing user-defined functions as part of our requirements in intermediate programming. So to start with, let us first identify our learning objectives. So in this part of our discussion, you will be learning about the standard or the predefined functions. You will be learning about the user-defined functions as well, examine value returning functions, explore how to construct and use a value returning or user defined function. You will also be learning about function prototypes and also how to construct and use void functions. You will be also discover the difference between value and reference parameters, explore reference parameters and value returning functions, learn about the scope of an identifier, examine the difference between local and global identifiers, and you will be discovering static variables as well. And you will also learn how to debug programs using drivers and stubs, learn functions, overloading, and also explore functions with default parameters. So in this case, we will only be focusing, for just this discussion, we will only be focusing with the user-defined function as well as the predefined functions. The other parameters, the static variables, lifetime of a variable, will be discussed on our next discussion. So just for this moment, let me introduce you the use of functions. So I am very much aware that all of you should be familiar with the word function as we have, um, let's say, encountered it in Microsoft Excel. So I have prepared here a sample of an Excel worksheet. So this is composed of the grades of a student in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. So as you can see here. So what we will be doing here is that we will be computing for the average of these 4 quarters or grading periods. So we will be using the long method in computing the average in Microsoft Excel. We will be using the sum and count function and as well as the average function. So let's start first with the long method. So we all know that for us to compute the average of 4 grading periods, all we have to do is just to add all of these numbers and then divide it by the number of items we have in our selection. So in this case, all we have to do is to type equal, open parenthesis, we have to quantify, we have to group it, for it has to be prioritized in the computation. So let's select 80 followed by plus 85, which is located in C2, followed by plus 91 in D2, then another plus, and then lastly, you have 93 in E2. Then you close it using a closing parenthesis, and then divide it by 4, because we have 4 number of items in our selection. So when you hit enter, you will be able to compute the average of these 4 grading periods, which is equivalent to 87.25. So as you can see, it is very much, we call this tedious for us to compute the average of those grades or those items in that sense. So we have here the sum and count functions. So all you have to do is to type equal followed by the name of the function. Let's say sum followed by open parenthesis, and then you select the values you have there. So what we will be doing here is that we will be computing for the sum of those 4 grading periods and then divided by the number of items which will be counted by the count function. Then let's select these items. Let me do that again. Okay. So open parenthesis and then let's select those items. And then let's press enter. So as you can see, you will be able to get 87.25. The same with the first one. But here's the catch. Look at this one. If ever that the number of items will be decreased from 4 to 3, let's say I will be removing the quarter 4 grid. As you can see, both of the items have recomputed for themselves, but they have now different values. Why? Because for the long method, as you can see, what it is doing is that it still adds these 4 selections and then divided by 4. So, hindi na siya 4 kasi nagbawas na tayo kay quarter 4. Get it? So, in that sense, kinulang tayo ng value ngayon pagdating dun sa long method. So, unlike for the other one, sa sum and count function, ang ginawa niya, it computed for the sum of the selections and then it counted the number of cells which has values. So, as you can see, it only has 3. So, it divides the sum by 3, not 4. So, as you can see, a function works dynamically based on the situation being given. So, actually, the sum and count function, using the sum and count function in computing the average, is still a longer method. So, we have here a separate function for the average, which is called average function. So, all you have to do is to type equal average, open parenthesis, and then you select the cells that you want to compute. So, as you can see, it has the same value as with we have here in the sum and count functions. So when I return back the um, removed item from the list, so it will be equal or computed equal to 87.25. So basically that is a function. So in C++, it almost worked the same. So ang kaibahan nga lang pagdating kay C++ is that dito hindi mo na nakikita yung code, pero pagdating kay C++, ikaw mismo ang gagawa ng code. So pag nagkamali ka sa paggawa ng code kay C++, of course, iba rin yung ilalabas na value ng computation mo. So, let us go on with our discussion. I hope I made myself clear in this very simple example that I have prepared for you in Microsoft Excel. So, going back to our topic, functions are often called modules. Basically, these functions are miniature programs, or should we say, a small part of a program embedded or can be embedded in your program or can be stored from a different folder which is combined with your program to form a larger program. They allow complicated programs to be divided into manageable pieces. Later on, when we have our examples, you will be seeing how does functions help the programmers in the manageability of the program and also maintainability. So in predefined functions in C++, a function is similar to that of functions in algebra. It has a name. Actually, we will be giving a name with our functions in C++. And it also does some computations. So some of the predefined mathematical functions are square root, power, and computation of the floor area. Now, when we go here, you have the predefined functions. So the predefined functions are organized into separate libraries. So you have the input and output functions are in IOStream header, and then the math functions are in CMath header. So I hope you are all familiar with the IOStream header. So actually, when we navigate to the location of the dev C++ in your device or in your computer, it is located here inside the local disk C. And then when we open program files, we navigate to dev C++ or dev CPP. And then let's open templates. Oh no, that's not templates. It is this one, MinGW64. So let's open lib gcc x86 underscore 64 dash w64 and so on 4.9.2, and then let's open include, and then you have your C++. So as you can see here, I have here the IO stream file. Ito yung IO stream na tinatawag natin dun sa start ng program natin. When you open that file, it looks like this. So as you can see, it is a separate C++ file. Ito yung ginagamit ng C++ for it to be able to display an output in the output stream and also to extract input from the output stream. So ito yung iniraran niya. Kapag nilalagay natin siya dito sa part ng header natin, sa hash include IO stream. Whenever it is being called, ito ang ine-execute niya. Okay? So going back to our presentation, to use predefined functions, you must include the header file using an include statement. Again, it should be prefixed with a hash symbol, as you may see here. Oh, sorry. As you may see here, it must be included in the preprocessor or the header part of your source file or source document. So going back, in user-defined functions, we have two types of those. You have the value returning function, which are or which have a return type. It returns a value of specific data type using the return statement. Later on, makikita natin kung paano ginagamit yung return statement in a value returning function. And also, the void function. A void function, which is different from the value returning function. Ang pagkakaiba nila is that kung si value returning function nagre-return ng value, pagdating kay void function, hindi siya nagre-return ng value. It just executes a part of a program. So it does not, or it do not use a return statement to return a value. That is a void function. But if you want your function to return a value, kung gusto mo siya mag-display ng value, kung gusto mo siyang magbigay ng value to a particular holder, you have to use a value returning function that will use a return statement afterwards. So moving on, a value returning function. So to use this function, you must remember to include the appropriate header file in your program using the include statement. So later, yung mga gagamitin naman natin will be a simple user-defined function in which we will not be using other external libraries other than IOStream and Konya.h. So we will still be using those. So you have to know the following items. First one, the name of the function. Para lang tayong nagpapangalan ng variable. So that is how you do the naming of a function. So kung ano yung rule na ina-apply natin sa pag-name ng variable, that will still be the same rule that we will be applying in naming a function. So you also have to know or determine the number of parameters if there are any. You can have a value returning function without any parameters. So ano ba yung parameters na yan? Yan yung nasa loob ng open parenthesis. So kung babalikan natin si Excel kanina, let's say for example here, so you have average. Itong nasa loob ng open parenthesis, ito yung ating mga parameters. So sa parameters, doon kukunin ni function yung mga values na kailangan niya for the computation. So you also have to know the data type of each parameter. So pagdating sa data type, alam naman natin kung ano na yung data type, right? So, yan ba ay integer, yan ba ay double, yan ba ay character, yan ba ay boolean, value. So, it's up to you. Kung anong kailangan ng program mo, yun ang dapat na declaration ng type ng parameter mo. And also, you have to know the data type of the value being returned by your function. So, four important things that you have to consider in naming a value returning function or in constructing a value returning function. First one, you have to consider the name. Ano yung name na ibibigay natin? Secondly, um, how many parameters will you be using? Third one, what are the data types na gagamitin mo for those parameters? And lastly, ano yung data type ng function mo? Okay? Always remember, in a value returning function, magbibigay ka ng value. So, in that sense, kung magbibigay ka ng value, kailangan mong malaman kung anong data type yung ibibigay na value ng function mo. Okay? I hope it makes sense. So, continuation. Can use the value returned by a value returning function by saving it for further calculation, using it in some calculation, or printing it. Later, makikita natin kung paano yung ginagamit. So, a value returning function is used in an assignment or in an output statement. So, depende yan kung saan mo siya gusto gamitin. You can use it in a separate assignment statement or you can use it in an actual output statement. So, para ka lang gumagamit definitely ng variable. So, kung variable, pwede mong ilagay sa assignment statement. Kasi for example, sum is equal to num1 plus num2. That is an assignment statement. And you may also use it in an output statement. Kasi for example, cout, you have the insertion operator followed by sum. You can do that in functions as well. So, para hindi kayo malito, you can use you can basically use the functions the same with how you are using variables in your program. So, in the heading of a function or the function header, the first line of the function should look like this. Let's say, for example, you have int abs, open parenthesis, int number. So, do you still remember yung apat things na dapat mong i-consider in constructing a function? So, first one, again, the name of the function. So, in this case, abs is the name of the function that we are using. Okay, abs is the function. Next, what is the next one? How many variables or how many parameters will you be using? So in this case, we only use one parameter. So ito yon, yung number. This is our parameter. Third one, what is the data type of the parameter? The data type of the parameter is integer. The parameter is number. So para ka lang nagde-declare sa loob ng parenthesis. Para ka nagde-declare ng variable. And also the data type of the function. So ibig sabihin, we will be expecting that after this function has been executed, this whole function will return an integer value. I hope I made myself clear in that sense. So, formal parameter. So, these are the variables declared in the heading. In this case, ito yung formal parameter natin. Again, you have two different constructs. You have the part of the function, and then you have the main function. So, yung main function mo, yun yung usual na ginagawa natin. Yung main, open and close parenthesis, and then you have the curly braces, and then there you type your whole program. You will be creating a separate function for that. So, yun nga yung tinatawag natin na user-defined function. So, yung variable na ginagamit mo sa loob ng user-defined function is called formal parameter or formal parameters, kung plural. Now, actual parameters on the other hand, these are the parameters being used in your main function. Always remember, magkaiba dapat ng pangalan yung actual parameter mo at yung formal parameter. Again, the actual parameter is the one that is being used inside the main function. The formal parameter is the one that is being used inside the user-defined function. Later sa mga examples natin, ipapakita ko sa inyo kung nasaan yung actual parameter and nasaan yung formal parameter. Let me take note of that. So, formal parameter and actual parameter in the examples. Okay. So, moving on. This is sample syntax on how you declare a value returning function. So again, syntax is the function type. What is the type of the function? Ano yung value na i-return ng function mo? Ano yung data type niya? You have the function name. Again, the same rule applies with how we name our variables. And then you have open parentheses. Sa loob ng parentheses mo, you have your formal parameter list. If you only have one parameter, so you have data type followed by the name of the parameter. But if you will be using multiple parameters in your case, that should be separated by comma. Okay? So, after that line, after the header, you have open parentheses, the statement. So, ito yung i-execute ni function mo once na kinol na siya coming from the main function. So, the function type is also called the data type of the return type. So, again ha, paulit-ulit tayo dun sa apat na things na dapat mong pakatandaan in using a user-defined function. The name of the function, okay, the number of the parameters to be used, okay, the type of the parameter, and then the type of the function or the return type. So example, here's an example of a formal parameter list. So you have int, again, this is the function return type. So this whole part is the function heading. So this is the function return type. You have the function name here, and then you have the formal parameters here. Within the parameter list, okay, within the parameter list, you have the data type of the parameter, and then the name of the parameter. And then after that, the function body. Ito yung i-execute ng program mo once na kinol siya coming from the main function. So moving on, syntax to call a value returning function. Ito naman yung gagamitin mo if ever na nandoon ka sa loob ni actual, ni main function. Okay. Ito na yung actual parameters. So, the same kung paano mo siya ginawa doon sa, it's just the same kung paano mo siya ginawa doon sa part ng um, functions or in declaring your function or your function construct. Ganon din mo siya tatawagin dito sa loob ng main function. So, kung mapapansin mo, parang katulad siya nung nasa Microsoft Excel. You will call the name of the function, open parenthesis, followed by the actual parameter list. Huwag malilito, again, the actual parameter list kung ano yung name ng variable na ginamit mo within the main function. Hindi yung kung ano ang ginamit mo doon sa function declaration mo. Okay, ito sa loob ng main function. So, syntax for the actual parameter list. So, you have expression, comma, expression of the variable, comma. So, it's up to you. Kung maraming parameters kasi ang gagamitin mo, of course, maraming laman yan. Again, separated by comma. Pero kung iisa lang naman yan, you only have one. So, you have your formal parameter list can also be empty. So, example, function type followed by the function name and then open and close parentheses. An example of an empty function is main function. So, as you can see, main followed by open and close parentheses, wala silang parameter sa loob. That is an empty function. So, a call to a value returning function with an empty formal parameter list is this. Function parameter followed by an empty open and close parentheses. Do not forget to use open and close parentheses when you are dealing with functions. Always remember that. So, return statements. So, function return its value via the return statement. So, kung ano yung maging computation do sa function mo, ibibigay ng return statement mo. It passes this value outside the function. Again, if you are using a value returning function, kailangan meron kang return statement. You are already familiar with the return statement. So, ginagamit natin yan kay main function. You have return space 0 followed by a semicolon. So, in this case, imbis na 0 ibigay natin sa kanya, we will be using a variable to be returned to the, what do you call this? To be returned to the function body. Okay. Yun ang ibabato nyo ngayon papasok kay main function. So, syntax for a return statement. So, you have return. This is a keyword followed by the expression. This one can be, okay, an identifier. Pwede rin kasi siyang arithmetic expression. Pero for our case later, we will be using an identifier for this one. Okay? In C++, return is a reserved word, which means hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin, hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin variable name. Okay? It is a reserved word or a keyword. When a return statement executes, function immediately terminates. Okay? Every time na nakaka-encounter tayo ng return keyword, nagta-terminate na yung execution. Pati yung function. Okay. So, kung yung return mo ay nasa loob ni function, it terminates the function. Pero kung yung return mo ay nasa loob ni main, it terminates the whole program. So, control goes back to the caller. When a return statement executes in the function main, the program terminates. That is the basic reason why the return keyword is placed at the end of the main function because it terminates a program. Okay? So here's an example of a value return function with a return statement. So you have double, larger. Actually, this excerpt of C++ source code computes for the or determines which number is larger, okay, from a two value of given a two value situation. So you have double. Again, this is the function heading. Okay, double larger, double x, double y. This is the function heading. And then the function type is double. So we are expecting that the function will be returning a double or a value with a floating point value. So that is followed by the name of the function, which is larger, and then open and close parentheses. Inside of those are the formal parameters. So as you can see here, they have two parameters which are separated by comma. So if you are dealing with multiple, okay, with multiple parameters, you have to separate them with comma. But again, you must be using separate data types for each one. Hindi yan kagaya ng sa main function na pwede kang mag-double x, y. No. Pagdating dito, you have to declare them separately. So, double x, double y. Now, within this function body, so ito na yung gagawin niya once na i-call itong function na to and then return max. Ibig sabihin, yung max, ito ang magiging function return value. So, kung ano, for example, tinawag itong function na ito within the main function, pag nag-execute siya, ang ibibigay niyang value will be this one, the value of max. So, let's say, for example, double x is equal to 5, double y is equal to 6, for example, double max. So, the max will hold which one is greater from the other. So, if x is greater than or equal to y, 5 is greater than or equal to y, max is equal to x. So, in that case, 5 is not greater than or equal to y. Basically, it is less than. So, else max is equal to y. Therefore, max will be equal to 5. So, yung value ni max, yun ang ibabato niya ngayon dito, this whole function will have a value of 5. Is that clear? Okay. So, moving on, function prototype. So this is a prototype, or should we say a syntax, okay, in using your function. Function prototype o function heading without the body of the function. So pwede rin kasi yung gumamit ka ng function with just a heading without a function type or function body. So in this case, here are just some example of those. Okay. So here is the flow of compilation and execution. How does really a I'm sorry sa manok, medyo marami kasing manok na panabong yung kapitbahay namin. Okay. So where am I? Ganitong mag-execute yung program mo when it uses a function. So first one, execution always begin at the first statement of the function main. Laging doon tayo kay main function. Again, that is the default function of a C++ program, the main function. So other functions are executed when called, only when called. So kung hindi tinatawag yung function mo sa loob ng main function, hindi mag-execute yon sa program mo. Always remember that. It will only be executed whenever it is called in the main function. So, function prototypes appear before any function definition. So, the compiler translates this first. Compiler can then correctly translate the function call. So, function call transfers the control of the first statement in the body of the called function. So, kung tinawag yung function doon sa loob ng main function mo, ita-transfer na yung control doon sa first line ng body ng main o ng function na tinatawag niya. When the end of a call function is executed, the control is passed back to the point immediately following the function call. Okay, so function's return value replaces the function call statement. So, let's stop on that. So, next meeting natin i-discuss ang void function. So, I hope theoretically you already have the framework of how does a function work. So, let me just show you how it is being done in an actual setup. So, first, ganito ang magiging atake natin. So, first, I will be showing you a C++ program without a function. And then, after that, i-manipulate natin yung program using a function. Okay, let's have the first one here. I hope you are able to read it clearly. Okay, so okay naman sa recording. So, let me introduce you to the program first. This program determines the absolute value of a number being given by the user. So, ano ba yung absolute value? Siyempre, di ba sa mathematics, pag sinabi natin absolute value, all of the numbers are treated positively. So, walang numbers that are less than 0. Walang negative numbers. So, all numbers should be positive. So, ibig sabihin, whenever a user gives 5, the absolute value of that number is 5 actually because it is positive. Pero kung ang binigay na number is, for example, negative 5, it will be converted into a positive value, which is 5. Again, there should be no negative value in an absolute value. So, in this case, let me show you how the program works. So, this is the main function. Okay, we have here the main function. So, I have here int num. So, that will basically hold the value to be given by the user. So, cout, magbibigay tayo ng instruction. So, cout, please enter a number. So, let me just put some comments for you to see. So, this part accepts input from the user. Okay? And then, we have here, ito. int num is less than 0. So first, it determines whether a negative number is given. Siyempre, kung nagbigay ka negative 5, so the value of this relational expression will be false. Will be true, rather. So, for example, nabigyan ko negative 5. Negative 5 is less than 0. That will become true. Okay? So, again, it determines whether a negative number is given. Now, para saan itong nasa loob? So, as you can see, int num is equal to minus int num. That is equivalent to int num is equal to int num minus int num. Okay? Int num is equal to int num minus int num. So, example, nagbigay ako ng negative 5. So, negative 5 minus, okay, minus negative 5. So, if you could still remember, how does it work? So, ang mangyayari dyan, negative 5 is equal to, negative 5 minus negative 5 will be equal to 5. Okay. So, ang gagawin niya, i-add niya ngayon ito, same values or same signs, that will be equal to, that will basically be equal to 5. So, ang ginagawa niya, kinukuha niyo kabaliktaran ng value. Whenever a negative value is given, gagawin niya ngayong positive value. And then after that, cout. So, ito yung ating output. So, displays the absolute value of a number. Very basic. It displays the absolute value of a number. So, cout, the absolute value of the given number is to display the value. So, let's try to execute this one. So, compile and run. So, medyo mabagal siya mag-run kasi nagre-record din ako at the same time. And yung recording kasi medyo malakas mag-consume ng processor. Oops. It is being read by my antivirus. Let's just wait for a moment. And then after that, i-disable ko na lang yung aking antivirus. Para sa mga succeeding examples natin, hindi na siya mag-scan. Let me turn this off. Okay. So, going back. So, here is the sample. So, please enter a number. Let's say, for example, nabigyan ko ng 5, and then I hit enter. So, the absolute value of the given number is 5, basically. Okay. Pero, kung ang ibibigay ni user is negative number, please enter a number, negative 5, for example, the absolute value of the given number is 5. Basically, that is how it is being done. Now, so since alam niyo na kung paano nagpo-flow yung program, what we will be doing now is that I will manipulate the program for me to be able to show you how to incorporate function in a C++ program. So, in this case, sabi ko naman sa inyo, magkakaroon ng dalawang part or dalawang function yung program mo. So, you have the main function and then you have the user-defined function. So, in this case, sabi nga natin, ilalabas ko ng function yung computation, which is ito. Itong part na to, ilalabas natin. Okay. So, what I will be doing is that, first, syempre, kailangan ko makuha yung function header. So for the function header, we have to start with the data type of the function. So yung returning type niya. So in this case, ang kailangan natin returning type is an integer. So I will be use int. Kasi whole number naman na ibibigay natin. So you have integer followed by the name of the function. For example, abs. Okay, of course, stands for absolute value. So int abs followed by open parenthesis. Then sa loob niya, you have your parameter. So this is the actual parameter. For the actual parameter, let me use int x, for example. Int abs, int x. Okay. Itong parameter na to ang gagamitin natin sa computation sa loob nito. Okay. So, I will now be having the body of the function. So basically, what I will be doing is that I will just be transferring this part of the program here. Okay. So let me just copy this one. Or cut, rather. And then transfer it here. Okay. If int num is less than 0 and then int num is equal to minus int num. So ngayon, hindi pwedeng int num ang gamitin natin kasi yun ang ginamit dito. So we will be using a separate one for this one. So in this case, I will be using x. Ito na nga yung dineclare natin. So yan ang gagamitin natin. So we have your x. So if x is less than 0, then x is equal to minus x. Okay. And then, sabi nga natin, kailangan natin mag-return ng value. So return x. So return x. So kung ano yung value na mako-compute dito, yun ang i-return natin magiging value ng buong function. Okay. So return the computed value to the function. So, ngayon, ang tanong, paano natin siya tatawagin dito sa loob? So, sabi nga natin, there are two ways. You can call the function in a main function by using the assignment statement or the output statement. So, in this case, I will be using output statement. So, dito, tatawagin ko siya. Let's say, gusto kong kunin yung absolute value ng number. So, I will use abs. I will call the function name. And then, sa loob niya, syempre, yung name ng parameter na gagamitin ko. Which is int num. Okay. Baka nalilito ha. Kanina sabi natin, meron tayong dalawang type of parameter. You have the formal parameter and then the actual parameter. Yung formal parameter, ito yon, yung nasa loob ni function. And then yung actual parameter mo, yun yung nasa loob ni what? Ni main function. So in this case, ang ginagawa niya, ganito lang yan ha. It executes the main function. It will execute the main function. And then, up to this point, kapag tinawag niya ngayon, yung function, abs, int num, so yung value ng int x will be equal to the value of x will be equal to the value of int num. Binato niya ngayon dyan. So, kung halimbawa, kung nilagay mo rito is negative 5, so abs, open close parenthesis, negative 5. So, pagdating dito, this is negative 5. So, x is equal to negative 5. Okay? So, if negative 5 is less than 0, which is true, x is equal to negative x, which will be equal to 5, x will now be equal to 5. And then you will return the value of x. So, ibig sabihin, sabi nga natin dito kanina, let's go back here. Ayan. Function's returned value replaces the function call statement. So, this is the function call statement. since the return value or the function value is equal to 5, so ito magiging 5. Kaya pag nag-display yan, the absolute value of the given number is 5. So, let us see it in actual operation. So, let's execute and then compile and run. It's good that we do not have any error. So, let's use 5. The absolute value of the given number is 5. Basically, that is a positive number already. And then let's execute the program again. I will use negative 5. So the absolute value of the given number is 5. Basically, that is how a, what you call this, a function works. So, nagbabatuhan lang sila ngayon ng value. Okay. So, another example, addition. Dito naman, familiar na kayo lahat. Hindi ko na kailangan i-explain kung paano gumagana ang program. So, it just adds number in term1 and in term2 to be computed. Now, in this case, ito ang aalisin natin dito. Okay? Ililipat ko siya sa function ng labas ng main. So, what I will be doing here is this. So, int add, for example, int add, and then I will have int x, comma, int y. Bakit int x and int y? Because I will be using two values, first number and second number. Next. Sa loob niya, magdi-declare ako ngayon isa pang variable which will hold the value of the sum. So, int sum. Ano? Not int sum. Int z. Int z. Z is equal to x plus y. And then return the value of z. Okay, so z will hold the value of this one which will be returned to the function. Para kapag tinawag natin siya, ito ang i-execute niya. So, sige, gamitin natin ito. Sabi ko kanina, we can use the function, or we can call the function within an output statement or an assignment statement. In this case, gamitin natin assignment statement. So, int sum is equal to add, let's call the parameter. So, you have the two actual parameter in this case. Ito ang gusto natin i-add. So, int num1, comma, int num2. This is the actual parameter. This is the formal parameter. So, again, I use the function in an assignment statement over here. So, let's try to execute the program. Compile and run. Please enter the first number, 10. Please enter the second number, 12. Now, as you can see, the answer is 22. How did it work? So, again, int num1 is equal to let me place it over here. Int num1 in our case earlier, int num1 is equal to 10. Okay, and then int num2 on the other hand, sorry, iba nang napin doon. On the other hand is equal to 12. Okay, so int sum is equal to add int num1, comma int num2. So, ito ngayon yung function call natin. So, since kinall yung function within the assignment statement, nag-execute ngayon ito. So, once na nag-execute ito, so since, okay, so since int int x is equal to int num1 is equal to x, therefore x is equal to 10. Okay, and then the other one, int num2 is equal to y, therefore y is equal to 12. So having that in mind, nag-execute ngayon ito, z. So z is equal to the value of x, which is 10, plus the value of y, which is 12. The answer is z is equal to 22. So return the value of z, which is 22. So ibig sabihin, i-return niya ngayon yan dito. Okay. So pag return yan, ibig sabihin, int, therefore, add function, add int num1, int num2 is equal to 22. So, sabi natin kanina, that will be replaced. Okay, that will replace the value of the function call. So, in this case, this will now be equal to, very good, that will now be equal to 22. So, in sum will be equal to 22. That's why, nung nag-display siya rito, the sum of the two number is 22. That is basically how the whole program works. So let me just show you the whole code for your reference. So basically, that is the magic of functions. Next meeting, we will be discussing about the void functions and then the other um, higher level programming when it comes to functions. I hope you have learned something today. Till we meet again next meeting. God bless everyone and stay safe. Thank you so much for listening.